Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Beth.
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen.
Here.
Commissioner Heinen.
Here.
Commissioner Gopinski.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Pop.
Okay. County board meetings are broadcast live and video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. The county board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board's chair consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off your cell phones or turn your cell phones to vibrate. Thank you. All right. We've got open forum. Dennis Schmidt. If you can come to the podium and state your name and address. Thanks, Dennis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. My name is Dennis Schmidt. I am here to talk about County Road 50. My land on the north of my farm joins County Road 50. And I've lived on the farm out there all my life except when I was in the service. And I'm 79 years old. And I was told ever since I was in my mid-20s that road would be blacktopped within 3 years. And I've heard that over and over and over the years. And I heard that from the first time from Leo Bowerly, Jake's dad, and he got things done. When he said he was going to do it, he got it done. But he passed away shortly after that I was told that. And I wasn't the only one in the neighborhood that's been told that. Tom Leggett moved out there shortly after I was married. He moved out there and shortly after he was married. He raised 11 kids out there. He lived just north, a couple hundred yards north of County Road 50. I think it's County Road 51. He raised 11 kids on the farm. All the kids are gone off of there. He moved to town and he passed away 3 years ago. He never did get to see County Road 50 blacktopped. There's always seems to be some excuse, not enough funding, but they seem to have funding to do all the other roads around the county. And the excuse was, well, they had to do the bridge, put new culverts in where the bridge was. And the bridge was so bad they had to close it for a year before they got the culverts in. And they said they'd blacktop shortly after the culverts were in. Well, the culverts have been in there now, what, 2-3 years? The road still isn't in. And they keep kicking the can down the road. And I've sold feed beside farming for 36 years, 36 years I think it was. I drove from every road around in the county, not way on the far east, but from Sherburne County to Buckman and to the west. I drove all the roads over the years, and always the roughest road I had to drive on all the time was County Road 50. And it's still that way today. I come in on County Road 50. And it's still as washboardy and rough as what it is most of the time. You can leave after the meeting here today, go out and take a journey down County Road 50 and back. And I guarantee you by the time you get back to town, you'll have to go to the bathroom because it'll shake everything out of you. Because it's washboardy from one end to the other. And I think it's about time that road gets blacktopped. And now I heard some excuses about the solar panels. Solar panels won't have nothing to do with that road. At the very most, it'll be a short distance from where Jake's land is to County Road 25. But that's not certain yet. They might go south out of there, so it might not be at all affected by the solar panels. I've signed up for the solar panels on my farm. If I get them, it's very doubtful I will, because I'm the only one in that area that's north of 95. Everything else is south of my 95. And if they get more land down there, they probably won't need mine. So that, and mine wouldn't affect County Road 50 anyway, because I asked them this spring at a meeting where the line will be buried, and it'll be buried in my field until it gets printed up to my buildings. Then it'll hit the township road and it'll go out along Primrose Road. And I've heard there isn't enough traffic on that road. Well, if there wasn't enough traffic on it, it wouldn't be washboardy all the time. Traffic creates washboard. And that road, the people avoid that road as much as possible. That's why probably your road counters aren't up as much as they are. Because people come, well, where the old Leggett Farm is, there's about 8 or 9 houses on the Leggett Farm. And that's just shortly, a little ways up 51, and they come and hit County Road 50. They come up the Township Road, which is just a little bit west. Township Road that goes up, it's 90th Avenue. It's where Primrose Road and on the Township Road is where Primrose Road meets 25th Street, and you go north of there. They come up that Township Road and go to St. Cloud. They come up down Primrose Road and hit 95, go to St. Cloud. Every morning there's a string of vehicles going up there, coming back in the evening. They stay off County Road 50 as much as possible. A lot of times they see people come up that Township Road and go to the east of me. And you see the dust. Well, Primrose Road is blacktop and a little bit past to the bridge. But they go east, I can see dust all the way up to County Road 23. So why didn't they come from County Road 50, why didn't they go straight on County Road 50 instead of coming up on the Township Road? Because County Road 50 is so rough. They do anything they possible, they'll take any road possible so they can stay off of County Road 50. And there's absolutely no reason why that road shouldn't have been blacktop many years ago. That's the only county road within 10 miles of St. Cloud that isn't blacktopped. And it should have been blacktop many years ago. This end, County Road 20, from County Road 62 to the east, that's County Road 50, it's been blacktop many years ago. And the last time that was re-blacktopped, that road, I really didn't think it needed blacktopping yet, but there was a county commissioner living on the road and it got blacktopped. That blacktop could have went on County Road 50. That road has been neglected and neglected and neglected. And there's no reason for it. And don't tell me there isn't funding for it, because you always find funding to do all the other roads. There's absolutely no reason why that road can't be blacktopped, and as soon as possible. Because there isn't another road in the county that's as rough as that road. Now, you can drive around the whole county, because I drove around the county for 36 years selling feed. And that County Road 50 is always the roughest road in the county. Now, can anyone give me a reason why it isn't blacktop yet?
Well,
Looks to me like it's gonna get blacktop then.
no, it's on the 5-year plan.
Yeah, I've heard that how many times. It's on the 5-year plan. When Jake was on there, it was on the 3-year plan, and it would have been done if he would have stayed on the board. But he got voted off the board, so it didn't get done again.
Well, I hope you
where you-
understand, that's not we didn't vote him off the board.
I know you did.
Okay.
I know you did.
Yeah.
But it didn't get done. It was on the board to get done. I mean, it was on the plan to get done. But he got voted off the board, so it didn't get done. And
I
it
don't-
should have got done.
I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but I do believe that our plan is to get County 50. We've had numerous discussions on this. And there's a lot more that goes into the solar part than you probably, I mean, we've had numerous meetings on solar on this, and it's not a matter of where it's potentially gonna go on the solar, it's about what the damage could come to with all the trucks coming in and stuff, because they're not gonna they only have to repair it to a certain point. So
Well-
there's a lot of things that come into play, and we've been debating this for probably 2 years.
Probably
3
ever
years.
since it's been on the board.
Yeah, because it's been on.
Or
it's-
longer.
Yeah, it's, well, as you said, it's,
Most of the traffic would be coming in from the south,
yeah,
not on County Road 50. And
well,
so it does. There's a lot of other trucks that run up and down County Road 50. They're not gonna damage you driving on it any more than any other vehicle. There's trucks that come down our township road. You should have seen I'm sure it wasn't legal, Landwehr come down our township road this summer with a great big crane. That thing took up the whole road. The guy was on the road, he had to pull into a field driveway so he could get down that road. He come down right north of us, where that new house is going up. And it was muddy, so they couldn't get out the roof with their lift. So they parked in the driveway and they reached out to the house and lifted the rafters from there onto the house. You go see how far that house is off the road and you'll know what size crane he had out there. It took a huge one because it was out there a long ways.
If he was over width and overweight, he should have got a permit from the highway department
Well, yeah.
to get there.
Yeah, should have. He wouldn't, I don't know if he would have got one from the county road, not alone the
And,
township.
you know,
And he
it's-
went back the same way.
The-
He could have took County Road 50 because it's just a
Yeah.
couple hundred feet off of County Road 50. But why didn't he take County Road 50?
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of
rough.
discussion on County Road 50 from what I can recall until we passed the sales tax deal.
Right.
That's when it actually came into play. Prior to that, and that was in 2018, I believe.
2019, yeah.
2019, we started collecting. Prior to that, so I spent 4 or 5 years on the board. We never heard about County Road 50 until then. And then that's when it was brought back
You never
up.
heard about it, Phil?
Well, not that we were gonna asphalt it, no.
Do you ever check your roads? You ever
Oh,
drive
yeah.
around on the county roads and check them?
Oh, yeah.
You
But
do?
we had a lot of other roads that were a lot higher traffic that were needed fixed than what County Road 50 did.
Yeah, I know a lot of them. And you take the roads that get blacktop right close to Foley around here. I traveled them selling feed too, and when they got re-blacktop, they looked in really pretty good shape yet. There was no holes in them. Might have been a crack here and there. That blacktop could have went out on County Road 50.
Okay.
So don't tell me. I've been around the county. I lived there all my life. I'm 79 years old.
Yeah.
I'll be turning 80 in January. And I hope to see it blacktop soon so I get a little bit of use out of it, out of my tax money that I paid all these years. Maybe what do we got to do in that area? Get together and everybody says not going to pay no more taxes until that road gets blacktop? Maybe then we get a little action. I don't know. It'd be a thought. But, you know, I think it needs to be done. All the older people around there are pretty all dead and gone. The oldest ones that live on County Road 50, all the older people, from years ago that I knew growing up, they're all gone. And even on our Primrose Road and County Road 25, it goes from 95 to 62. Jerry Bowerly and his wife and I and my wife were the oldest 4 people that live on that road. And there's 20, that's another thing, there'd be a lot more development on that road if it was blacktop. You take Primrose Road, that goes from, and County Road 25, that's 3 miles. That goes from 95 to County Road 62. I think there's 24 family houses, and well, a couple of businesses in there too, if you call the guys that horses, what's his name over there? Drops Mule Carl Backus. You got about 50 horses there, boards, and the people coming, night after night, they come to look at their horses, and horse trailers going up and down the roads, and our road gets a lot of traffic because of that, but I mean, yeah, and then you take just, you go half mile east of my place from County Road, from Township Primrose Road to 25th Street where I live, half mile to east and go south. Part of that road, the township blacktop, about the first, about half mile, maybe not quite, coming from 95 up. Look at the new houses going up there. There's 3 new houses went up there in the last year and a half or so, 2 years. And then there was a couple other ones before that. Where you put blacktop down, you'll get new development. People aren't going to build on that rough gravel road. They're going to come ride. Well, I'm not driving this every day in my vehicle. I got roads like this. How many new buildings would there be up now on County Road 50, if that had been blacktop 20 years ago. You'd probably have 10, 15, 20 more buildings there.
Don't,
Because that land, maybe not quite that many, but there's a lot of land there that could be developed for housing, if not close by.
and just so, we're clear too, it's more than just blacktopping. There's a lot of prep that has to take place and stuff.
I
And
agree.
just, and even if we did put it on the roll this year for, it would be a year and a half out because of all the design and all that stuff. So no matter what, we're out for sure till 27, correct, Chris?
That's when it's in the plan, right?
Yeah. And I think, I do believe that the board has talked quite extensively on this, and I think we're in a good place for it to be done.
'Cause,
Yeah.
I don't want to see the can kicked any farther down the road.
And I'm gonna tell you, I know we've kicked the can, but I think a lot of people before us kicked the can.
I know that.
Yeah.
I
We just,
agree with you.
yeah. So I think, I think we're in a good place moving forward.
'Cause, I don't want to have to get the whole neighborhood around there in here at your board meeting and have them all screaming at you. A lot of them can scream a lot louder than I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Did you have something? Okay.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way. Okay, you're set.
Please state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Michael Williamson. I live at 915 7th Street South in St. Cloud. Former Sauk Rapids lifelong resident. Now I work in Foley. And I thank you for your time today, Mr. Chair, honorable commissioners. I'm here to talk about the parks in Benton County. I really enjoy our county parks. I think our parks department does a great job. I was out at Benton Beach not too long ago and, looking at their Frisbee golf course. And, it was really nice. The only, downside was there wasn't any maps or, anything like that I could find online or in that little box that they have to keep the Frisbee golf maps in. But it was still a really beautiful day, great parks. And, I was down in the Twin Cities yesterday. They have, even more beautiful. And I think as St. Cloud expands, Sauk Rapids, east end of St. Cloud especially kind of expands out, we're going to need those kind of green spaces for the larger community. So I thank you for listening to my comments and thank you for the beautiful parks.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is always good to hear the parks are doing well and good comments coming, so thank you. All right, with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. What would the board like to do?
Move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 9, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 1 through 9. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Monty?
All right.
Here.
Maybe just a little preface, Mr. Chair, is Minnesota's budget law requires you to adopt your budget really in 2 steps. First is called proposed budget levy. And the proposed budget levy, what it does, it primarily serves the purpose of the truth and taxation notices which go out later this fall and your truth and taxation public meeting that you'll have in December. So we first call this with the proposed budget levy, and then you'll consider the final budget levy at your last meeting in December.
Excuse me, Monty, can I just, is your mic on? I just want to double check.
Yes,
There it
sir.
is.
All right, thank you.
We're good.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, the board recently had a budget work session, fairly lengthy discussion about the proposed budget levy. And the consensus from that meeting is illustrated in the attachment that's in your packet. And it's also on the screen with us. If I may, I'd like to go through this quite briefly and highlight a few things that are in the proposed budget and levy. It was the board's consensus to have a levy increase of 4.98% or $1.2 million from 2024. That's on a 10-year average where we have a 2.7% levy increase on average over the past 10 years. One thing that is really different this year is we've seen fairly substantial tax capacity growth over the last 10 years. And that, as Brian Folden, our county assessor, told us, that trend is going to change for payable 2025. And he described 2 factors. One is the increase in the homestead market value exclusion, And second was some residential property valuation reductions, primarily in northeast Sauk Rapids, which resulted in a 0.7% reduction in our payable 2025 tax capacity. So that does result in a small increase in our tax rate. We expect our tax rate to grow from 44% to 46.5%. But I want to make sure I note, though, that's still down from a peak of 77.6% in 2014. So down substantially from its peak in 2014. We like to include in here, often folks will ask, well, how does it affect a residential property? Our median value right now is $276,000. Based upon this proposed budget and levy, county property taxes on that, again, stressing, county property taxes would increase $38 a year or $3.22 a month. The operating budget shows a fairly substantial increase, but most of that is due to, as you heard from Chris, one of the largest road programs that we have planned in 2025. That explains most of the increase from 2024. So let's jump on down, Mr. Chair, then to, well, what makes up this levy increase? And it's typical with county government, it's a people-intensive operation. Salary, employee benefits, and compensation make up most of that increase. So, for example, January 1st, with all of our labor agreements, we have a 2.5% general wage increase. You also have step increases. There's also included in this is the cost to implement year one of the class comp maintenance program. We talked about that in the budget session. And then any related health insurance increases. The board chose to use all of our certified 2025 county program aid for levy reduction. You can see that took $583,000 off that increase. So used all the certified CPA for levy reduction. There's some new positions in this proposed budget. We'll talk about those in a second. And a few other things. We're seeing increase out of home placements and human services. The Department of Corrections is assessing us for the central office administration costs. We have local correctional agents here in St. Cloud, but they're supervised out of an office in St. Cloud. So that's representing, the administrative costs of those positions here in Foley. The board also decided to add a comprehensive dental coverage for employees, fully county funded. Currently, employees just have access to a preventative dental coverage. This to give more comprehensive coverage for things like braces and so on. We're seeing increased usage of East Central Juvenile Detention Facility. It's also known as Lino Lakes. As we heard from Lori from Extension, we're going to see a fairly substantial increase in our extension costs. What we heard there was that Extension is experiencing substantial turnover and difficulty in retention of those local educators, and felt that they needed to make some substantial adjustments to help attract and retain those local Extension educator positions. Moving on down, Mr. Chair, then some of the things that are in the proposed budget and levy. To full-time detention officers, as you heard from Sheriff Heck, we heard that we have all of our posts in our jail must be staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And ultimately, under the DOC rules, if I recall correctly, it would require possibly, if I remember, 8 additional correctional officers. Sheriff Heck proposed an interim step of a so-called 5-post jail, and that would reduce the need, at least in the short term, to just 2 additional correctional officers. Excuse me. One thing I wanted to stress in this agenda, in this bullet point, and Mr. Chair, I've conveyed this to Sheriff Heck. It was the board's discussion, and I believe consensus, is that at least in the short term, the STS program would be suspended, and this would allow the STS detention officer to work full-time in a jail to cover for open shifts. And again, I've conveyed that to Sheriff Heck. That's the board's intention in approving these 2 positions. Moving on down, then the board approved an environmental tech ditch inspector position for highway. As Chris told us, the complexity of environmental permitting grows and grows. It's extremely time-consuming, very detail-oriented. Also, of course, the board has embarked on a very ambitious program to clean and maintain our county ditches, and felt that it was important to add a ditch inspector to make sure that those ditches are inspected annually and the maintenance is kept up on them and they don't get clogged up again. Then in human services, a few new positions: eligibility specialists, 2 social workers for men choice assessments, and 2 social workers for what's called home and community-based waiver services. One thing it's important to stress here, Mr. Chair, says human services said is that these positions are all offset by revenue. They can earn revenue, and backing up, if I may, to the eligibility specialist, we received a special appropriation from the legislature for what's called the unwinding of medical assistance eligibility. As I understood, is during the pandemic, redeterminations were put on hold. So you had all these that were, this caseload had been built up. So counties got, I believe we got 230-some thousand for this so-called unwinding. So that is helping offset the cost of this position. And again, we had mentioned earlier the fully insured comprehensive dental program. The last bullet point, Mr. Chair, just talks about our fund balances. They're in pretty good shape. General fund's revenue fund balance is at 6.1 months of expenditure coverage, where our standard is 5 months. And like we have for many, many years, we use a little bit of fund balance each year to help fund our capital improvement program. This year's proposed budget uses $623,000 to help fund all the various building maintenance projects in the CAP. And Mr. Chair, I believe that is, the rest of this are just spreadsheets and things that I like, which I didn't intend to cover in detail. And I believe that's it. Happy to address any questions, of course, if board members have comments.
Board?
Well, I think we worked this over pretty well in our cow, and I understand, Monty, that this sets the levy. We cannot go higher, but we could go lower if we found money, right?
This year, yes, sir. That is, today is the maximum levy. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. You can reduce it between now and December. Yeah.
Right.
And a key note is we are, in the Micah counties, we are one of the lowest ones for a levy increase.
Yeah, correct.
Yep, we've been seeing a lot of 9%, 8%, 7.9%.
Yeah.
increases.
I think both Sherburne and Stearns are going to be a titch lower than we are, but not much.
Yeah.
Well, I think Sherburne's going to be because they get a big refund check
Right.
from
Yeah.
the North Star project.
So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed tax levy.
So, Mr. Chair, we'd ask you to take this in 2 steps. The first would be a motion to adopt the levy, and the second would be the budget.
Okay. I make a motion to adopt the levy.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to adopt the levy. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the 2025 budget as presented.
I'll second. Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the budget as presented. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right. So, Mr. Chair, we'd ask you to fulfill your statutory duty to announce the date, time, and place of the Truth and Taxation public meeting. And it's in the action section of your agenda item. All it requires is simply an announcement, Mr. Chair, and it goes into the minutes.
By the chair.
Okay,
Yeah, he's getting to it.
hold on here.
There you go.
All right. Let's see here. Conduct a truth and taxation meeting on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024 at 6 PM in the Benton County Boardroom.
We're good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Heinen,
All right.
my computer's,
Gold star. Okay.
okay, moving on.
All right. So I believe the next thing is the DDA maintenance program recommendations. And I see Tessa is with us. So Tessa, good morning.
Good morning.
So Tessa, would you like me to share screen with you and you go through the PowerPoint, or would you just like me to go ahead and load it up here locally?
Whatever is easier for you. I know last time we had a little.
Yeah, we
technical
had
issues.
we had a lag issue. I'll tell you, I'll just go ahead and we'll load it up here then. And then
Okay, perfect.
I can advance for us, so.
I think you got a nickname last time.
He's got a lot of nicknames,
I
Tessa.
Tessa,
sorry.
thank you for reminding us about that.
Which one were you referring to?
Whatever
Which one were you referring to, Tessa?
I may have called him Vanna because I needed help on presenting, so, but that's a nicer nickname.
How much longer,
You tell me
Vanna?
when you're ready.
You know, today is not my day. We're having some issues here. Okay, we're there. We're almost there. Yeah.
Price
Okay.
is right.
Here we go. So I am going to share screen myself, so folks that are watching online can see this.
Monty, a quick question before we get started on this. I know that there was some questions. Have those been addressed?
Yes, sir. You'll hear that.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
All right, Tessa, take it away. You just tell me whenever you want to advance.
Okay, perfect. If you just want to move to slide 2, it just explains that the benchmarks, again, were approved by the board. And then on slide 3, it just identifies those benchmarks that we're using, because that's always a question that's brought up. So I always like to just discuss that. On slide 4, it just, again, I just like to remind people what we're doing. So the classification of jobs are strictly done for internal purposes. On the job description to create internal equity, used for pay equity, and also it aligns with your organizational structure. Then we go and look at the market and we look at competitive pay, where the board wants to be, and we create a pay grid that is basically calculated by updated job descriptions, classifications, pay equity, and competitive pay. So I always like to just kind of explain the difference between those two and kind of what we do and why we do what we do. On slide 5, it just shows all of the jobs that were reviewed in 2024. So again, as the ongoing maintenance, what we do is we look at all of your jobs to the market, but we specifically focus in on these third. So we do a third, look at the job description, go into details on the market to make sure they're classified correctly, looking at career ladders, which the board has talked about. But again, the ongoing maintenance is like your pavement improvement plan for the highway department. We look at the road surface every year and we try to do minimum changes. That's exactly what we're doing here. And these were the jobs that were included in this first round. On the next slide, slide 6 is the findings. And basically your current pay grid is calibrated about 3% under market on the mins. And they're right at the market on the maximum. So you have a 37% spread, so meaning from the min to the max, it's 37%, versus the benchmark is 38, so you're well within there. There's a few jobs that are starting to deviate from the market based on just things that are going on and also with the structuring in the county. And then one thing I just note here is the removal of the salary cap is impacting the county administrator jobs and your leadership or your department heads, because we're seeing those salaries just going up. So I'm just forewarning the board of that. And then entry-level positions for the retail, they've kind of pushed your lower, your entry-level positions in the county as well. And I think we've addressed those before, but I just kind of say 23, 24, we really focused on getting jobs up to $20 an hour. And now you're seeing kind of the other end of that with the salary cap removal. The next slide just talks about the classifications, because today we're just kind of finalizing those classification appeals. I just like to remind people that the classification of jobs is not based on the person or the performance, it's based on the position. So the job description is written as if everyone wins a lottery and we need someone for that position tomorrow. These are the things that we use for that piece of it, and it's pretty standard around. But again, it's not about the person in it. It is about the position. The next slide is basically our recommendations for the classification changes. And it just starts with the patrol captain moving from a 14 to a 16, the patrol 11 to a 12, chief deputy 16 to an 18, social services supervisor 13 to 15, jail program coordinator, 8 to 9, human services director, 28 to 22, county administrator, 22 to 24. The next slide continues with that. The county assessor moving from a fifth.
These slides.
Are we okay? Sorry.
Okay.
The people online just can't see the slides.
Yeah, we're just having a few technical, excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just having a few technical things, making sure people online can see this.
Okay. I can wait. Oh, okay.
Well, it was sharing screen earlier.
Well, and these haven't changed, like the last time I presented, so those should be in the packet. We can always send that out too. It's more just the classification appeals that we received in some of, there you go.
Yeah, well, we sent the draft out. I did test it to
Okay,
department heads, and I'll send this one out too. I think there, of course, a lot of folks have asked for it, and I'll send it out afterwards.
okay. Then
Okay.
if you just go to the next slide, it just continues some of those other changes, making those. So it starts with the county assessor. If you can move to that slide.
Yes, so we are on that one. Yep, we're good.
Okay, perfect. Public safety lead from 6 to 7, senior assistant county attorney 18 to 19, assistant county attorney 1, 14 to 15, assistant to county attorney 2, 16 to 17, HR specialist to HR manager 7 to 9, HR assistant to HR administrative specialist 3 to 5. And then the recommendations are for the career ladders. So those would be public health nurse, so a 9 and a 10. So it's basically the 1 and the 2. Deputy sheriff 9 and 10. Case aide 3 and 4. Registered nurse 8 and 9. Community health was asked for a career ladder. It's not supported by the market, meaning it's not a multiple incumbent position, and it's not something I typically see. So I'm not recommending the career ladder, but again, the board can decide to change that. It's just not one of those that I see in the market. So on my professional recommendation, I would recommend a career ladder here.
Okay.
Then for the classification appeals, so of those that we changed, we sent out, if a job was reviewed and didn't receive a change, they can look at it and say, hey, something's missing or warrants another review. They can't ask for more money. And of the appeals that we got, on the next slide, it starts with the patrol sergeant. They had some minor changes just in the job description. We did that. I would still leave that where it's at. The county assessor had an appeal. It's basically on how it was written for the SAMA, the other positions underneath it. Nothing changed with that grade level. Detective had a classification appeal for compression. Originally, when we did the career ladder, was moved up for a deputy 10, 11, and it should be a 9 and 10. So meaning it stays where it is and then one goes above. And then the detective would be at 11, so that compression issue would not exist. So we think we identified that. Deputy had an appeal, 9 and 10. Their appeal was just the lower steps to the market, meaning so when they're hiring people and they're, starting them up higher, but that's the whole purpose of the career ladder is if they have those experience, they should move up. So we think that with the career ladder, we're addressing that, and you have flexibility as a 9, you have 10, multiple steps, and also as that deputy, the second level. So we think that addresses that. You might not use some of your steps, but you have plenty of movement before they would move up to that next career ladder. The public safety telecommunication lead says it supervises. It was not intended to supervise. So if that's the change, we just want to make sure that it's approved by the board, because you're changing the intent of that job, and where someone else supervises, that would change. That should go through the board process, not a classification review, because that's a major change to the job, and I don't want to circumvent that process. And then the last page is the chief deputy wanted more money and the step movement. So not necessarily a classification of the grade, but where the grade placement is. Social worker, minor changes. There's no grade change warrant. Social worker had minor changes in the job description, no grade change. Community health specialist wanted, again, that deep career ladder. I don't think that it warrants it, and I think that there was no changes to the job description, so I think the classification is correct. And then the lieutenant, which was brought up by the Teamsters because of the other movement in the sheriff's department, it created compression, so we are moving that one from a grade 12 to a 13. Monty, did I get all of that correct?
Yes.
I know there's a lot of changes and the board is probably like, oh my. Typically, we don't anticipate this many changes, but it's been a little while since you did this study. And the market is just moving, and especially some of those jobs with the career ladder, it kind of compresses and snowballs the whole department, so we have to adjust accordingly.
Board, any questions?
No, I think she explained it very well, and I know she's put a lot of time into it, and I'm very satisfied with what she came up with.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you guys for looking at all the questions that did come
Yep,
in and
I mean-
stuff. So that compression, I believe, was a touchy point
Right.
at some point, so.
And I guess from my standpoint, if we wouldn't add questions and asked to look at different things, I would feel like maybe we were not quite doing what we should have done for the constituents of the county.
Yeah. I look at it this way, no matter what, we're behind, again, even though we just implemented this,
Right.
but,
And I would foresee we're gonna have questions next year when we do the next third.
yeah,
Correct. At least we're moving in the right direction, though, trying to keep up with it.
yeah. All right,
Okay, I'll make a motion to
No.
approve.
Oh.
Go ahead, Monty.
No, please, why don't you make that, and I just want to elaborate just a little bit, if I may.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the DDA maintenance program recommendations for 2025 with implementation to the following county personnel policies.
I'll second that.
okay, we got a motion and a second. Monty?
So, following up on what Commissioner Heinen just mentioned, so taking this in sort of two pieces. So if the position is going to be reclassified, in other words, moved to a higher grade, then January 1st, they would move to whatever step in the new grade is higher than where they are now. And that's how we've been doing these reclassifications forever. So again, you just move to whatever step is higher. If it's a career ladder, that can occur at the discretion of the department head, anytime next year. And following personnel policies, the person would get a minimum 5.5% increase when they're promoted to the new grade. But again, that's really up to the department head, and there is some discretion involved because you need to make sure that the person is in fact meeting all the requirements of the senior job description. In other words, you go through this. Do they meet the MQs? Do they fulfill all the responsibilities of a senior? Do they have no disciplinary in their record the past couple of years? So there's, again, a little more subjectivity involved in those, and they're not necessarily just automatic. So, and I should mention too, Mr. Chair, is this afternoon then I'll be sending draft letters of understanding to each of the bar units. I believe 6 of our groups are affected by this recommendation. So I'll be sending draft letters of understanding to each of those 6 groups, asking them to consider those and possibly approve them. And some may want to meet, and if they do, of course, our negotiating committee will of course meet with them over the next few months.
Mr. Chair. Monty, if I could, just for clarification, so you said department heads have the ability to advance that person on the career ladder. Is that their sole responsibility, or does that need board approval?
The policy does not require board approval, no. It just involves the HR director to sign off on it and verify, hey, yes, the person does meet them. What we've done in the past, Commissioner Johnson, is we've created like a revaluation tool for each department to use, kind of like a checklist. And you put in this checklist all the requirements of the senior. You just kind of go down to the checklist. Does this person meet this? So on and so forth. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We've not wanted to make this overly complex and time-consuming that folks can get promoted into senior. But again, I think it's important for the supervisor, department head to pause and really evaluate that person and say, have they demonstrated their capacity to move to the senior position? So,
Thank you.
yep. And I think as we noted, Mr. Chair, in the proposed budget, the cost of this is about $155,000 in next year, and it is included in your proposed budget and levy. And that's all I wanted to add.
Any other questions from the board? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Tessa. Thanks,
Bet.
Monty.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank
Have
you,
a good one.
Tessa.
Thanks,
See ya.
everyone.
Yep.
When do we get going on the next one then, right away?
Can we? So is that the fuel station one?
No,
Oh, the next.
The next class.
the
in
next
comp.
class and comp.
Oh, okay. Long sigh.
Yeah. Well,
It's worth knowing, Mr. Chair. I mean, this process has been substantially time consuming for folks in the administrator's office and departments and so on. And if of course, if it's necessary to have meetings with our bargaining units, it will consume substantial amount of time. And it's important to remember, this is something I think the board has decided to do in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's every year. There's going to be this activity. So it's added quite a bit to the plate, so.
I will throw one comment out there that I usually throw. I hate the way government moves, where it's, like snail's pace all the time, or even slower. I'm used to being able to approve something and get it done with, so.
Mr. Chair, Monty, will we be doing the next one this spring then, starting this spring?
I would suggest, yes, I believe we should probably start May-ish, right? That next third.
At least people out there in the audience has an idea of when we're gonna start in the second phase.
Yeah, the next third would be then early spring, of course.
Thank you.
Keep it rolling.
Less impact.
All right, is the fuel station next?
Yep.
All right. Highway, I'm glad Chris is here. Mark Ebnett and Chris Bird brought this forward.
Oh, my God.
And as the agenda item says, we're operating with an 18-year-old fuel control system, which has unfortunately failed on us at the worst possible times. So this is like the card access system. So if I go up and I want to get fuel, I have to swipe my card and I go into that shed and I punch in my code and so on. So it dispenses fuel. It tracks fuel usage by vehicle. It also monitors, let's see what else it does, monitors fuel levels in tanks and so on and so forth. Obviously, it's a critical system and needs to be functioning close to 100% if possible. And Highway recommends its replacement. They obtained a quote from a vendor of $22,486. And as I mentioned, Mr. Chair, in the agenda, we do have cash reserves in the CIP fund which could cover this cost. So given, again, it's a critical system to keep things running, I would recommend that we move forward with this replacement, Mr. Chair.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. One comment on that. This is very critical. I mean, without any logging in of fuel or anything, or finding out where we're at when there's a snowstorm, we're out of fuel, it becomes a major issue because we all know we just can't go to Brenny's or anything like that and just do it. It has to be pre-approved and everything. So with that, any other?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
This is kind of related to it. Have we found the leaks and everything in the fuel tanks?
Did you want to come up, Chris, to give an update on
Yeah, I can provide you an update. So today, actually, they're on site cutting open the concrete to open up that tank. Tomorrow is when the inspector with the warranty information is supposed to be entering the tank along with the repair people to see where that leak is and see how extensive the repairs are. So those are happening now as we speak. So keep your fingers crossed that the repair that they find is warranty, covered under warranty. If not, then I believe we'll have a fight on our hands because we don't. That's another $30,000 worth of repair that hopefully we don't have to pay for if it's warranty information.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So with this new system, I assume that would work if we had to replace and we went to different tanks or whatever. This system will still work on that, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's all related, but two different things. So regardless of that you're using old tanks or if we have to put a new tank in, this system will work with all that and it is needed.
So
Sorry.
the other morning when we left or when we came back, I rode with Chris, and so these tanks, which makes absolutely no sense to me, are sitting like this under the concrete, and they're in the winter, and you know what kind of soil we have out there, Commissioner Johns. They drive over them every day with snowplow trucks and that. This makes absolutely no sense when these were put in. I mean,
Correct.
you would never do that
On the farm.
on the farm or in a co-op or any place. And I know your gas stations do,
Yep.
you know, they all do.
Yeah.
But it's just like, okay, why would we do that when we could have put them off to the east and never had to run over the top of them?
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, Chris, so I know that Commissioner Pop and the rest of us talked about in the future, if we were to replace those tanks, that we would maybe look at the option of going above ground. So will this system work with above ground tanks? Do we know?
I think the computer system was, if you look at the invoice, there's a lot of costs, there's over $2,000 worth of cost of electrical connections and sensors and stuff. That would need to be replaced, because now instead of underground, you got above ground
Right.
tank and then
Sure.
conduits
But
and
the main
everything.
system itself,
I believe it should, so,
Yeah, basically, I would assume that this is no different, not like an access control like it was talking
well,
about.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but our discussion was if we've got the $30,000 repair that's not warranted, we're gonna have more discussion about what
Right.
we're gonna do with those
Yeah.
tanks.
Yep,
yeah.
Okay.
So,
hurry up and wait.
so yeah, that's the thing. We were told a month ago, at the beginning of this month, that we would be looking at that, and then at the last minute, they had to cancel and redo it. So hopefully this week we have some better answers. So fortunately for us, we have a board meeting next week. Maybe
Yeah.
if all things go well, I can have some more answers. And I will confirm that question about above ground tanks at the system. I would like to think so, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'll bring back that information.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Chris, if this is approved today, when can the vendor do this?
They say right away. I don't have a good timeline, but the idea is while we're doing all these repairs, let's do that too while we have it open and access to the tank. So if it's approved, we'll let them know today that it's approved and start getting parts and stuff in place.
Mr. Chair, I was just hoping that they could do this coincide with
Yeah.
fixing the repairs.
With the
on tanks.
repairs.
And Mr. Chair, I assume, Chris, county vehicles are running to Bernie's or wherever they're running to.
Yeah, so diesel is still available for us and I guess fire department. Or that sheriff's got a couple diesel vehicles, but yeah, unleaded is having to go elsewhere.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think we had a motion and a second.
We did.
Correct? I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right.
ARPA.
Mr. Chair, I thought we needed to check in on ARPA funds. We are approaching the December deadline to obligate those resources. And we're getting down to just a few $100,000 that's remaining unobligated. So this focus today, if I may, is on the city allocations. So here's my quick recap. If I can focus your attention on the column original allocation. So back a couple of years ago, the board committed by resolution $175,000 to the city of Foley to run fiber to its city facilities, like wells and wastewater and so on and so forth. Just back in May, the board actually obligated via contract $500,000 for residential lot development. Let's move on down. Then City of Rice, originally $300,000 for a new city well. In Sauk Rapids, original commitment, and this was via contract, was $350,000 for residential lot development. And then on down the line, $450,000 to City of Sartell for the Mill District, City of Gilman, $400,000 for its sewer system, and then more. And this actually hasn't been done by contract yet. The contract is in the works. $100,000 to the City of St. Cloud for apartment complex renovation. So that's kind of where the world stands at right now. So then focusing on the revisions. So again, knowing we have to obligate these dollars by a contract by the end of this year, I had a conversation with the city of Foley. Are you still needing these resources for the fiber? And the really answer was no. Could you use it instead for the water sewer? Yes, we can. So this would basically move the 175 from the fiber bucket to the residential lot development bucket. 175, and I've confirmed that with Sarah. That's fine. I believe they're prepared to adopt that. Moving on down, the City of Rice has told me, and I have a letter from Julie Fendall, City of Rice. She says the bids came in about $700,000, and they're about $250 short. They're about $250 short for the well. So this recommendation here, Mr. Chair, would give them another $100,000 towards their well for a total of 400. Maybe you could come back. Let me, if I may, just go through all these and please let's have discussion then. So moving on down to Sauk Rapids. They have finished the water and sewer in the so-called Windsor Estates too. Those lots are done. And I'm not aware of any other lots in development or so on and so forth. That leaves, they used 180 for that. We paid the city the 180. So that leaves 170 left. This would move then the 170 to water and sewer extensions. If you can picture the intersection of Cashaw 1 and 29, the northeast, northwest corners, the city has proposed to extend water and sewer to those corners. They seem to have substantial commercial possibilities, so it extends water and sewer there. This 170 would cover it according to the estimate that they gave us. Then this would basically then take the remaining ARPA dollars, 625, and say, okay, city of Sauk Rapids, whatever you can do as far as you can take the water sewer with the 20 extension, here's 625, go as far as you can. And then the remainder of these would stay the same. So, Mr. Chair, this action here would obligate virtually every dime that's left over of our ARPA funds. There's a little bit that Jack and I need to talk about and make sure we're completely clear on exactly what's left obligated, but this basically takes care of it. So again, my goal this morning was to check in, make sure everyone is okay with this discussion, please.
A quick comment on the Sauk Rapids, that would get that extension underneath that river.
The creek?
The creek, yeah.
I call
And
it
then we
creek
don't have
now.
to deal with the fees and all of the, what do they call that? The
Environmental
environmentals
studies,
and
DNR.
stuff like
About
that.
how far is that east of the intersection?
Oh, man.
So they have water, they have water sewer just to the end of Rice Creek.
Half
Creekside?
Creekside, okay? And then they're gonna stub onto that.
Oh,
And then
okay.
they're gonna go another,
East.
quarter mile, something like that. And then that'll get them
Past
under,
the
Probably
past the
closer
creek.
to a third of a
Yeah,
mile.
being we've done all the studies and everything right now, it would get us past that creek so they wouldn't have to go through those studies
Open up a
again.
lot of development where they just gotta
Yeah.
just take them,
Butt right in.
butt right
Yep,
into
butt
it.
right in.
So I bounced this idea off of the folks at the city of Sauk Rapids, and they appear amenable to this and eager to use these resources to do what you just described. So,
It's a little different than like the city of Foley and the first part of Sauk Rapids where it actually directly went to lots.
Mm-hmm.
This is, as long as we're doing the extension on 29 and having it all ripped up.
Right.
Putting it in now so it doesn't have to get ripped up again.
Yeah.
Did the lots that they did for 180,000 just come in a little bit cheaper, or they were just,
No, because we had two developments that were originally going to use that.
yeah?
And the first development actually, I believe, was pretty much sold for
They, I know, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson, in the agreement with the city, the total lot price was capped. So the
Yes.
developer could charge no more than, I believe it's $54,500 for the lot. There was a cap on that because they were getting a subsidy of $15,000 per lot.
Right, okay. Thank you.
So, I'm not necessarily asking for any action, just making sure everyone's good with this plan. And if you are, then I'll start working on amended agreements with Foley, with Rice, and Sauk Rapids, and get those to them and back to you all as
I'm good.
possible.
I'm good.
I look at it this way, I think the whole board, staff, and everybody should feel pretty proud of this, because we're one of the few counties that actually didn't take this for lost revenue.
We're rare.
We're
Yeah.
very rare, and it got reinvested back in the community. This is $3 million.
Right.
Yeah.
We use 3.2-ish
For rural broadband.
rural broadband.
Right, yeah.
So I mean, we literally invested in the county
Right.
Right.
over the last,
Don't
almost
forget the
4 years.
$500,000 into the revolving loan fund.
Oh, yeah, the revolving loan fund too, yeah.
Right. And was able to stay under 5% on our levy too.
Yep.
Yeah, so great job to everybody, and
Okay,
right.
we're good. Thank
Thanks,
you, Mr.
Monty.
Chair. All right.
Chris,
All right.
speaking of 29 and 1, huh?
There we go.
Exactly right. That's what I was thinking as well. So. All right. So we're still progressing with our roundabout design at 29 and 1 next year. But to fit that roundabout circle, we need a little bit of additional right-of-way. So I have before you a resolution for consideration to authorize Rinky Noonan to do the direct negotiations with these parcels for the additional right-of-way we need. It also would authorize the county attorney's office to exercise power of eminent domain if necessary. Our goal is always to direct negotiate with landowners, but considering our timelines of a 2025 construction, timelines are extremely tight. So this would be just the first step just to ensure that we can still meet timelines with notification, allowing landowners to consider the offer, counter offer, get their own appraisals. All that adds time to the timeline. So this resolution would authorize the negotiations, and then if needed, only if needed, the attorney's office to exercise the eminent domain power. Attached to the resolution are our right-of-way exhibits showing the parcels that would be affected and the easements that are needed to construct the roundabout there. So those are attached as well to the resolution. So mostly it's in these corners. If you can imagine, you got a square intersection, you put a circle in there, you need a little bit more than the existing square to construct that roundabout. So I admit a quick summary of the resolution, but I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Commissioner Heinen.
Chris, have we been in talks yet with any of the landowners?
Yeah, I believe all the landowners are aware of it, and we've sent out early notification letters. We've hired an appraiser to do the appraisals, but yeah, there have not been any offers made or anything like that up to this point.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Any other questions? If not,
Motion to adopt the resolution to acquire additional road right-of-way.
Second.
okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions for Chris on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, the next item I have for you on the agenda is to award a construction contract. So if you were to go out to our 5-year plan that we adopted right now, and look for this project, you would see that this shows up as a 2025 project. Well, looking at our staffing levels and our workload next year, this was a project that we decided to go ahead and accelerate due to its simplicity, that we could go ahead and accomplish it this fall. This is the full depth reclamation of our County Road 53. Basically, it's Oak Park. The paved road in Oak Park would be ours. So, like I said, a relatively straightforward and somewhat simple project that we could accomplish still yet this fall. So we received 3 bids, and Knife River was the lowest responsible bidder, and they came in almost 11% under our engineer's estimate. So we were pleased to see that. They're excited to get started on this. Actually, my assistant is messaging me now, wanting to know as soon as it's approved. If it's approved, let the contractor know, because they want to jump on this right away and knock this out this fall still. So bid price of $245,861.35. So if it pleases the board, approve the bids and authorize adopting this resolution to enter into a construction contract, and authorize the board chair to sign when the contracts come back from our contractor.
Mr. Chair, looks like somebody's hungry for some work, huh? Being that they want to get it done, start right away.
I think that's a big part of it.
And that's
they
probably-
did pick up a lot of work this summer, so they're looking for still.
And I would assume that's why the estimate came under.
Yeah, I would think so
Estimate.
too. Yep.
It's always good to see.
Yes, it is.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
I'll second. We got a motion and approval. Any other questions for Chris? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Very good.
Did we want to go right into ditch real quick?
It's your choice, Mr. Chair.
Why don't we turn it over to, actually, we don't have a
Any
health
help,
board. Are you guys good with turning over Commissioner Johnson for ditch? Let's go.
All right, Chris, don't go too far. We'll call our ditch authority meeting to order. 10:04, we have been through the roll call already with everyone present. Move on to consent agenda, approval or amend the minutes from September 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the minutes from September 3rd. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Update on CD 14 wetlands, Chris.
Okay, just kind of provide some history. So we had ordered a repair of County Ditch 14. At the time we were considering ordering the repair, we knew that there were some wetlands adjacent to the channel, the ditch channel, that under existing law would require some mitigation. At the time, the impacts weren't fully known, so an estimate was provided at what it may cost to mitigate for impacting those wetlands. And at that time, that put the cost of the repair project greater than the benefits provided by that ditch. So a partial repair was ordered. Essentially, we cleaned out most of the channel except for a few locations where we said no repair in the plans and left the existing sediment in the bottom of the ditch so as to not impact those wetlands. Well, since that time, we've been asked to go back and look at those locations and see if we can narrow down a little bit better what the potential impacts would be of those locations and consider maybe repair of those or a partial repair or something in between. There were 4 locations along County Ditch 14 where there was no repairs. The first one, well, I guess I'll just keep this up on the screen, is at this location between stations 84+00 and 86+00. It's a 200-foot section in this area right here where the existing sediment in the bottom of the ditch was left in place. There was a Type 3 wetland complex on the east side of the channel. So our engineer, Houston Engineering, provided a memo. After consultation with Bowser, we looked at what they call drainage setback tables. And those tables are used to estimate the lateral effect of wetlands by lowering the water table through those. A lot of these tables are used a lot of the times for tiling projects. If you have a known depth of that tile and you're draining water to that tile, you use those tables to estimate how far left and right of that tile you would be affecting the wetland. So we use those tables at each of these 4 locations. But I'm going to page up here to the summary table. Considering wetland bank credit costs in our bank service area, we looked at that first location. And if we were to clean out the sediment to the bottom of the as-constructed elevation, as we did on upstream and downstream sides of this no repair location, we determined it would have 0.24 acres of impact. The Board of Water and Soil Resources, or Bowser, would require a 2-to-1 replacement ratio, so we'd be essentially buying a half an acre of wetland credit. And assuming that credits are about $100,000 an acre, we would be about $48,000 of wetland credit cost. So we'll throw in some cost of construction to pull that sediment out there, a little bit of administration cost. We're estimating about $56,800 if we were to do that, clean that no repair section to the full depth. I wanted to focus on this location because through our conversations with Bowser, that type of wetland, that Type 3 wetland, it's what they kind of consider a flow-through or a pass-through, meaning it's fed by water outside of the wetland going through that to get to the ditch. These other 3 locations are more of depressional wetlands, open water wetlands. There was no in-between where you could do a partial depth repair and not impact the wetlands. And I'll kind of explain that further here in a minute. But similarly, using those equations, you see the costs here for these other 3 locations of these kind of open body, depressional wetlands, open water bodies. If we were to repair the ditch in all four of these locations to that full depth, we're still looking at about $370,000 of mitigation costs. And that's, most of that cost is buying the credits that would be impacted. For this location, this first location specifically, since it's that pass-through type wetland at type 3, we discussed with Bowser some other options. Can we do some kind of partial depth repair? And we got to this idea where we could do some vegetative management, which is allowed under the Wetland Conservation Act, and Bowser seems to be agreeable to that. So we're not necessarily removing any sediment from the channel, but we would be allowed to remove the vegetation. Commissioner Pop and Johnson, we were out there recently. You saw the cattails. They were over our heads growing in that channel at that location. Bowser seems to be okay with the idea if we were to remove those cattails in that channel and some depth that includes the root ball or the root mass of those plants, but not remove the sediment below that elevation. And they seem to be okay with the idea if we did that, we would have little to no impact on the wetlands adjacent to that. So therefore, the cost to do that work is very minimal. Basically, the cost of having a contractor go out there and remove that vegetation. It still would require us to complete a no-loss application to the TEP panel and have that reviewed at their next meeting. But once again, if we look at and consider our cost to benefit ratios, it would be little cost to maybe having some restoration of drainage at that location.
Chris, I know this is a little bit after the fact question, but did Bowser give any reason why this wasn't an option from the get-go? Instead of coming back 6 months later and 9 months later?
No, and as you're aware, it's all new people than what it was almost 2 years ago when we were having those conversations. So Bowser has a new representative for our area. Of course, we have a new LGU. Don't know if that's the reason, but there was no indications what previous individuals, why they ruled the way they were. So,
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Chris, please explain to me how they're going to remove the vegetation.
well, it would require some sort of a piece of equipment out there to either cut and then grab that root ball out of that channel and remove it. So
I'm trying to picture this in my head how they're going to do this without
I call
disturbing.
that a backhoe.
Yeah,
I call it a backhoe, right?
without disturbing, the sediment.
Well, and how deep does who's going to determine how deep the root ball goes?
Correct.
I mean, they're saying 6 to 12 inches. It could be 12 to 18.
yeah, I think we'll have to specify that in our application to the TEP. And then maybe we have to self-impose a limit just to get to approval of that and say
The
12
higher
inches.
the limit, the better, I think.
On a side note, attended the fall conference transportation committee, and all they did up there is whine about not having
Enough
wetland
credit.
credits available in our service area.
Yeah.
And so brought up the idea of how about talking to the legislature and getting these county ditches exempted so that the county's not going after these
Credits.
credits.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't thought about that at all.
Was that Les?
This was last week,
Was that Les that was given the?
Les, and then Dave was in there too.
Okay. I know Les extremely well.
Okay.
Extremely well. So
They hadn't given any thought to that, he said.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's coming anytime soon, but it just shows the idiocracy of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
We're fighting against each other for credits and driving our wetland cost up to $100,000 an acre in our service area.
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe Commissioner Pop's highest in the state, isn't it?
Yeah. We're the highest in the state. I did mention the Bowser at the fall policy. If we could get moved to another deal, I must
That
have.
wasn't received really.
No,
I brought that
I thought
up
I was
to
going to
Les
have to
as
go
well.
to. I had to go to confession after that, I think.
Anyways, Chris, go ahead.
So I guess I'm looking for some guidance from the Drainage Authority on which the direction you would like to proceed.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I think we should proceed with this part, but I guess before we go in there and start doing anything, I want to know what, if we're going to take out 6 inches, I don't think that's going to help the people very much. If we're going to be 12 to 18, maybe, I And I think, me and Chris talked about it, I think if we take out some of that and we happen to get a nice rain afterwards, I think maybe some of that will take care of itself.
Yeah.
You know, as water flows through there. I mean, we were out there and it's never gonna cut its own path. We've seen that. No. Yeah. So I think we need to know what they're gonna allow us to do before we do
And
it.
again, this projected $57,000 worth of cost would be to the ditch system.
Yeah.
Would go on to CD
Correct,
14.
yeah. It's a cost to the system, so assessed back to the benefited owners, so.
So are they sonaring where it currently is to where it's going once we take these root balls out?
That is the concern that they have mentioned. They don't want erosion to cut it deeper, therefore draining additional water to that channel, therefore affecting or impacting the wetland. So under current Wetland Conservation Act, vegetation management is mentioned and permissible. There's no clear guidance in statute of what that depth is, so.
But if I'm also understanding you right today, even if the ditch authority gave approval for this, we still have to have the TEP's blessing.
Even though it's
Correct, but meetings to this point, they seem to be amenable to the idea of vegetation management and root ball.
So hypothetical timeline, ditch authority approves this point, then it goes to TEP. They're gonna meet hopefully in the next month.
Yes.
Once that's approved, does it have to come back to ditch authority or can we move?
I think that would be up to you. If you want to give me approval to move forward now with contractors, that would be the only thing. I guess at this point, it would be, I could foresee, we still have the repair contract open with the contractor.
So a change
Contractor
order?
requesting a change order.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So if approved, when would this get done? Your time?
I would say it's still this fall.
How are they gonna go in there and not disturb the rest of the wetlands?
No, that's I mean, they can go on the,
They'll
what would they call
float.
it? The buffer, the buffer area. I mean, we know that a track machine can get in there.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, we found that out.
Wheeled
That's a
machines
side
sometimes
story.
have trouble, but
Well, I'm just kind of curious of how,
Can it get out too?
they can get in there and
machines,
track
without
chains.
disturbing the rest of the wetlands.
So again, Chris, hypothetically, ditch authority gives approval, based upon the idea that TEP would approve it. Could we have an answer back on a change order from Hellman Construction for a meeting next week?
I can certainly try.
We have a number then that we can approve to move ahead once TEP approves?
I will certainly make the contact to the contractor. Yeah, you're right, because I'm not sure when the TEP will meet again. But I can certainly have those conversations now with the contractor, say, hey, really, what would it cost you to walk a machine out there and grab those?
Because we have an
Plants out
estimate
of there.
here.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Pop.
So I guess he's gonna wanna know though, to what depth, because if he's doing 6 inches or 18 inches, is gonna make him a little difference.
Well, but he may not, I mean, if he's grabbing and
Yeah.
pulling the ball out, that
Yeah.
depth is gonna be controlled by what he pulls out.
Hopefully it's more than less.
That's what I foresee Bowser actually saying in our application, writing something to what you just described, saying that you're grabbing the roots out, but you're not putting your bucket back in there to scoop out. So
So there's some gray area. I got 2 words, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Let's hear him.
Permission and forgiveness.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just see
comment.
that this is such a gray area, but I think everybody's kind of in a peculiar spot right here to where they know that if they don't approve it, it's bad. I mean, the government's getting in their own way here on these ditches.
I guess Mr. Chair, the disappointing thing is that this was not brought to us at the beginning.
Yep, and that was my point.
It was never in the original
Right.
reports.
Correct.
What they're considering to be wetland is 3 beaver dams.
I think in the initial reports, we were being overly conservative and saying there are wetlands here, there's going to be costs. And if I recall, we were, a few $100,000 estimating, to mitigate those. So, and I think the decision was made to go ahead and move forward with some sort of repair so we can get water. And I think that did help. Now that we've got the channel open, we can better analyze and take a look at the locations that are actually going to be impacted by wetlands or impact wetlands.
Well, and I think it's a good start and see if we can get some
Right.
kind of.
And when we were out there, there was some water running through, you could hear it. that it was, on the south end of where they didn't clean, it was running through, so I'm kind of thinking like.
Hopeful that this will
Help to some degree. I mean, I'd like to see it deeper than shallower, but.
So I have a question. Are you gonna do a partial cleanup to the tributary ditch that runs behind mine into the ditch?
It's a secondary ditch?
There's a tributary ditch that's been in there forever.
that feeds the main channel?
Yes.
We didn't touch that.
That's not
though.
us.
No, that would be a private ditch. That would be the private landowner's responsibility.
I think it's
So
just been overgrown for so many years.
I don't
So
think
there's-
our original
there's no
records
branch
indicated
identified
that a
there?
branch at that location. Nothing south.
There is one to the farther south.
Farther south, that was that branch three. Through
So
the-
Mr. Chair, if it is not a tributary ditch and it's privately owned, they would have the ability to go in and clean that, right?
Well, they'd have to get it permitted.
I own the land.
Oh, I see.
You see what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, Julie, you said you didn't own that land, right? That's,
I don't own that.
yeah. That's the neighbor's property.
From the edge of my property to the ditch.
Mhm.
And it's old. Yes, it is. It's overgrown.
Okay.
But it's not an identified branch of the ditch system.
Correct, yeah.
It's been lost or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So what benefit, what percentage of benefit is going to help me if they just remove the root ball? What is my percentage? Does it justify my cost?
I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, that since